Good morning, VEDA people, and it's VEDA Day 19, so, moving along through the VEDA thing. Today's topic is coffee or tea, and that's something I've actually, had to explain to people a lot. Well, I don't have to. Maybe they don't even care. Maybe you don't care, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I don't really like coffee or tea, and I think the reason is that, it's not that I don't like coffee. I like coffee in the sense that if I go through the aisle at the grocery store and they have that coffee grinder set up, I just absolutely love the smell of fresh ground coffee. I mean, it's amazing if someone is, grinding some. I mean, I don't buy it, so I don't need to do that. I even kind of like the smell of coffee roasting. A friend of mine has a coffee shop, and I don't think he really drinks coffee either. But anyway, it's I just don't like coffee, and I think what it is I smell the smell of coffee, and I like it a lot. And then I go and I taste coffee, and it's underwhelming. It doesn't really. Yeah, you can tell the two flavors are related. You can tell that the coffee beverage came from coffee grounds, but it's just like not as full of a flavor as I would kind of want. I would like it to taste exactly like coffee smells, and you might have some situations like that. I've tried coffee beans and stuff. Just chewing up a coffee bean and stuff like that, and that was an interesting flavor. It's one of those things. I think I like the smell a lot better than I like the taste. Part of it is probably because supposedly I'm a super taster. You can look it up. Essentially, they're super, not in the sense like that it's a superpower, but they're super in the sense that they are super sensitive to certain compounds in food that are bitter and otherwise unpleasant to them. But most people can't really detect them, so they don't bother them. So, a lot of times coffee seems a little bitter, and I could go and just fill it up with sugar and cream and all that stuff probably. But that's the old joke. Do you take some coffee with your cream and sugar? If I'm gonna do that, I might as well just drink. I drink hot chocolate sometimes, and I like hot chocolate because hot chocolate, it's got some real substance to it. As a kid, I used to, one of my favorite breakfasts was, we called it cocoa and toast. So, cocoa and toast is, you get a cup of hot cocoa and you cut some strips of toast so it's good for dipping. And, there's a guy broken down on the inside lane. I saw him before I said that, but I just wanted to point him out in case you could see him go by off the side window here next to the wall. Cocoa and toast was really good, and it had substance. The toast offered a lot of substance to it, but you could go through a morning on cocoa and toast, and that's why people, I don't know. Coffee, you can have all kinds of other biscuits and stuff. My grandma ate these things called cinnamon twirls. I think Little Debbie is one of the major commercial bakers that makes them. They're just they're like little cinnamon rolls that they're baked at some point, but they're kind of gooey, and my brother liked to unwind them, and I don't know if he got the cinnamon out from inside or something, but anyway. And tea is much the same way. I heard that tea was discovered by someone was boiling some water so they didn't die from infectious disease in China, and the emperor, they were apparently not very careful at it because a bunch of leaves got in the pot, and then some emperor really liked the taste of it and demanded that they go and figure out how to reproduce it, so they started trying to put all kinds of different leaves in. I wasn't there, so I don't know what really happened. It's an interesting story, but fundamentally, hey, would you like some leaf water or would you like some bean water? We grind it up and then we filter the water through. If I'm going to drink water, I like to drink clean water. and I understand there's caffeine in it. That's another thing that kind of confuses me about coffee, is that I oftentimes quite seriously ask people, where they think the best coffee is, and people keep telling me like, oh, it's some cheap gas station coffee or something like that. And I don't know, it seems to me like you should be able to reliably get awesome coffee. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's like beer. I've tried a bunch of different craft brews. I've never really found one, yet that's just to die for. I kind of like Newcastle if I'm just going to drink a regular, something in a bottle. I like Yingling. It tastes pretty good. But, some of the nicest beer I ever tasted was I did a tour of the Budweiser plant here in Columbus. And it was like, I think, beer it was like freshly brewed beer, which, unless you're at the brewery, I think they said it was 3 days old. They let it rest a little bit. But it was not as old as what you typically get at, in a can or something like that. So, yeah, never been canned. So, anyway, it was pretty tasty. So, yeah, I just, but even with beer, it's like I don't really drink a lot of it all the time. And it is, it's an acquired taste. I think it's sometimes kind of bitter. I like trying an IPA every now and again, but they're also kind of bitter. So, just not a fan of them. So yeah, that pretty much covers coffee versus tea. Neither. I'll go with hot chocolate. But it's just, I don't generally like anything that's just water filtered through some other stuff. Like, a really good example of something similar that I don't like is, I went to a Mexican grocery store and they had chocolate Jell-O. And I like chocolate, and Jell-O's okay. I like it. So I made chocolate Jell-O, and it was awful. It was all watery. It was not, it didn't really taste like chocolate. And, I usually associate the texture of Jell-O with, like, I don't know, fake fruity flavors or something like that. But yeah, it wasn't particularly chocolatey. It was like eating brown water, which I generally steer clear from. So yeah, that's about that. What else is going on? Well, in some of my VEDA videos earlier, I pointed out my train clock, which would sound an alarm oftentimes while I was recording and frustrate me. And yesterday, while the wife and kids were upstairs, they heard a big bang, and they heard like a glass tinkling noise. Oh, and I'm gonna take a little bit different route to work today, just to see how it goes. But I normally don't take this route to work. I'm taking I-71 to Main Street exit, and I mainly avoid taking it because so many of the times when I'm on I-71 and I see a driver that's a complete tool and driving very recklessly and in a huge hurry and just generally being an ass, they often seem to get off at Main Street. So I figure, like, why would I go where all of those people are going? Because I figure I'll probably meet more of them wherever they're headed. So I just usually take some other route. But so far I haven't seen, they must have gotten the jerkiness out of their system before this point in the drive. And it's not as late as I sometimes come through here. So maybe no one's delayed enough yet to be that crude. So the train clock's broken. It fell off the wall. I didn't even know. I thought it was like a plastic front. It was like a Lionel clock that made sounds, and so it broke. And my daughter was she didn't like that it made sounds. So every hour on the hour it would make a sound of a different train. You might have seen them that are like wild birds or something like that. They're kind of funny. So anyway, that's what. That broke. So I spent a lot of time with my wife last night kind of trying to find out if there were any awesome wall clocks. And I did like searches for like coolest wall clock. And people don't have the same sense of cool. I was looking at something maybe modern or Art Deco. I was looking for other clocks that make sounds. I was looking for other clocks that are like railroad themed. I showed my wife one of them that was a Santa Fe clock, but it was a little too Santa Fe, so it was just a little much, I think, and so she didn't really like that one. So I think we'll just have to go with something that's simple and modern and highly legible. The kind of thing that a glanceable clock. That's what I'd like to find. But so now I'm near Nationwide Children's Hospital, which is the big children's hospital in Columbus, and I always try and be extra careful here because I think it would be horrible to run into a pedestrian who is on their way to help an ailing child, or is an ailing child, or that'd just be. I mean, it's bad enough to injure someone with your car anyway, but I think it adds insult to injury if you do it to someone who's dealing with children's medical issues, either as a patient or a provider. So yeah, anyway, if you know of an awesome wall clock, I mean, some of them they're awesome, but they're just not very legible. Like you can't glance at them and see what time it is. I think we'd like one with numbers because we have 2 young children. I'd like to teach them how to read an analog clock. So yeah, if you see one, let me know. The other thing I've been up to lately is I posted a video a while back of a test ride on my new electric bike, and I got my electric bike and it was all it had electrical problems, and that sucked. So I called the shop and I even emailed the manufacturer, and they're like, "Oh my God, it shouldn't have electrical problems." Essentially all the LEDs on it were blinking at me, which to me means some kind of error code that can be decoded, and you can find out what's wrong, but no one would really tell me what that was. They just said the error code was that it was broken. So, and then they came to fix it, and they fixed it, and I did a test ride, and that's the one that I recorded and put online. But then I was riding it, and I found that in the higher gears, it's got like a 9-speed rear hub. I found that in the higher gears, it was you'd pedal, and then it would skip forward a couple links, the round part of the chain that normally goes in between the cogs. This is cobblestone street. It's like brick, so that's, if you can hear that sound, that's what it is. So, interesting. I didn't know. I'm trying to go down Beck Street. I wonder where Beck is from. Oh, I guess I have to go. Oh no, it just goes straight. Man, back in German Village, which I'm descendant apparently from a long line of Germans, they didn't know how to make streets that were very straight, apparently. So, anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, so it's when you pedal hard, like in 9th gear, which so that's the highest gear, which I do pretty frequently. I like to haul, and so when I pedaled like that, it would pop out, and that's kind of disconcerting because you're putting a lot of energy into it, and just have it skip on you. It didn't make me wreck or anything, but it's just really aggravating. So I wanted them to fix that, so I took it back to the shop yesterday, and I had to leave work a little early to do that, which I don't like doing. And probably should have turned. Probably should have gone straight there. Anyway, so yeah, I tried to get it figured out. I took it in and had him look at it. The guy, when he repaired my electrical issue, he noticed the problem and said that he was going to adjust it and fix it, but then he didn't. And so then I had to take it back. And so at this point, it's a new product, and I want to be using it for the reason I bought it, so that I could commute to work on the electric bike and not get all sweaty. So I did a bunch of research on it, and I ended up going with a juiced cross current bike. And it's my first electric bike. It seemed to be reasonably well made. Here's the street I intended to be on, so I got back to that because I want to see. Oh, cool! There are railroad tracks still down this street, which I like. Oh yeah, we're driving down the railroad tracks. So it looks like it was trolley tracks or something, because they have a little groove for the flange to ride in. It's not just a normal. It's not just a normal brick street. Anyway, so yeah, I wanted them to fix it, and I took it into their shop, and it was kind of like it was gonna rain, and it was gonna rain hard. I could see it coming on the radar, and I was just hurrying to get there. And I go there, and I just sit there with them, and these are guys who run a bike shop, and they're just like, they kept saying, oh yeah, it's this adjustment, and then they'd adjust it a little bit, and I'm not a bike mechanic, but I know enough about bike repair that, my brother was a bike mechanic, and I've been a mountain biker for since high school, 92 or maybe even earlier. So I've done a lot of work, and I also, being an engineer, even though I'm not a mechanical engineer, I know that you don't really solve problems that they didn't seem to know exactly what the problem was, because then they would have immediately fixed it. So when you're an engineer, wow, I got to work pretty quick today, so maybe I'll take that route in the future. So yeah, sorry if this is a little disjointed. I try to prioritize driving over talking, so that's part of the problem. And I don't know, maybe let me know if you think I should stop doing this format, if you find it aggravating, or if you find that it's nice and kind of like riding to work with someone. In fact, you could even theoretically play it while you drive to work, and it'd be like having me talk at you while you drive. Wouldn't that be awesome? So anyway, so I went into the shop, and I was trying to have them fix it, and they were just trying things. Like, you could tell they didn't know what they were doing, because they were trying things and going, that didn't work, and then they were just trying the same thing and going, wow, that didn't fix it. And it's like, maybe that's not the problem. I also told them that I contacted my brother, who was the bike mechanic, and he offered to take a look at it with me, but I just, I didn't want to waste his time on it, since I had already paid someone else to deliver it in good working condition. And he said that he had never had, he'd done bike builds and bike repairs and stuff for, I think it was about 2 years solid. That was his only job. So he said he'd never experienced the kind of malfunction I was talking about, where you're just pedaling, and it the chain kind of bunches up a little bit, rides up over the cog, and then it snaps back into place, so that you experience it as you're pedaling, and it just kind of skips forward a little bit, which it shouldn't do. And it was only in the high gears. So yeah, I took it in, and they had no idea, so they're like, all right, well, we'll keep it here, and then we'll fix it. And I'm like, okay, that sounds normal. That's what companies do when something's broken. That's especially what bike shops do. So they went, and after they tried for, I think, about an hour with me there to try and fix it, the two different employees at the company were working on it. They decided to keep it, and then last night I get home from work, and they told me they were going to call the manufacturer, which I have no problem. If you don't know how to fix something, call the people who built the product you're trying to get working and see what they say. One of my coworkers just arrived. So anyway, I go and I drop it off with them, and then last night I go and get home, so it's been 24 hours since I dropped it off. And they said, oh yeah, we called, and they said that they weren't going to support it because the apparently juiced bikes. Now this is what the local shop told me. This is not, I'm not trying to besmirch juiced bikes. I have yet to talk to juiced bikes about it, and I plan on emailing them just to find out if they've heard about this before. But anyway, they said that they were using, so it's a Shimano derailleur and rear cassette, but the chain was not Shimano. And I could see, if you're just using any old chain, it was a 9-speeder hub, so maybe the Shimano chain is a little narrower. Maybe it's specially designed to work with that. I don't know off the top of my head. I haven't researched it, but okay, I could see that maybe for optimal performance, you want to have a Shimano chain with other Shimano accessories. So anyway, that's what the bike shop is doing. They ordered a Shimano chain on the advice of Shimano, because apparently the juiced bike ships with a non-Shimano chain, which I understand. I mean, the reason I bought it is it was a lot more affordable than competing bikes. So if they tried to save a little money on something, I mean, I've been told, and it was my experience in the test ride, that the chain on that bike worked fine. So I don't understand what would be different. It could be that the bike I test rode had a Shimano chain and maybe the manufacturer was trying a different brand. I don't know yet. But anyway, so then the weird thing happened is that then they show up at my house and 24 hours later, and they've brought my bike back and it's not fixed. And then I also had fenders put on because I'm gonna they're cheapy plastic ones, but I'm gonna ride it in the rain and stuff, and I just I don't want it spraying water. I mean, I've ridden in the rain before without fenders, and you just kind of get that nice streak up your back of all the grime on the entire bike trail. So anyway, they brought it back, and that was broken, which they're going to replace for free. But if someone is just going to replace I wouldn't enter into a contract with someone who if you and I were about to start spending a lot of time together, it wouldn't be a good deal from my perspective if you promised to break everything, or to fix everything that you broke, and you just broke a lot more things than I normally have broken. Because even though technically, I mean, it doesn't really make me whole to break my stuff and then replace it. It's better if you don't break it in the first place, because then I never go without while you order the part, and I never have to deal with arranging for someone to come and fix it and stuff. So it's a little aggravating that here this is they've just broken a lot of stuff has been broken about it, and I've never even been able to use it once. I mean, I did a test ride, but that was only testing the electrics. I was at the same time testing the chain and everything, and I knew that didn't work. That's how I knew I needed to take it in. It was that test ride. But so anyway, that's been really frustrating. So I've been trying to get that figured out, and it's just taken a lot of time and effort, a lot of free time. So, and you wouldn't know it from me sitting around in my car while I could be out doing work, because I do need to get in, but I view my personal time as more valuable than my professional time, which is already pretty valuable. I mean, what I do for a living is I try to improve quality of things and save people time by automating them. So my personal time I just try to use as efficiently as possible, because I don't have a lot of it. And honestly, the time that it eats out of is the most valuable time, is the time from when I get home to when my kids go to sleep. That to me is the most valuable time, because they're only going to be young once. And so that's the time I'm most sensitive about having sucked up by, the electrical problem. They said they test rode it, then they installed a throttle on it, which was an upgrade package, and then they didn't test ride it again. And then so that's why I had to do the first service visit. But then they also noticed when they were repairing that, if not before, that the chain was skipping, and then they didn't just fix the problem then either. So they either failed to test that their work was complete, or they tested and then ignored the results. I don't know, maybe hoping that I would never ride in a high gear, or, I mean, I've made it pretty clear to them that I like to ride, and I like to ride the full range of gears through my style of riding. So one of the things they suggested is, they said, well, we could adjust it so that it only skips in the lower gears, and it's like, well, the lower gears are the ones where I'm going to be wanting the most torque and the least amount of skipping probably. So I just really want it to, I mean, it's designed to work in all of the gear ranges. Anyway, so those are the trials and tribulations of buying an electric bike so far. It's not specific to electric bikes. I think it's specific to dealing with small companies that that are in the kind of niche business of like selling electric bikes. You know, if I went to a mainstream bike shop, I would hope that this problem would have been resolved or never happened, just because I would hope that any mainline bicycle shop is going to be test riding everything and watching for every little nuance and getting every bike out the door in the best shape they can, because that's what my brother did when he was doing it, and that's what I would do if I were doing it. And that's what my job is to make sure that every product that goes out the door has been tested as well as we can, and if it doesn't get tested, then if it doesn't pass a test, then it doesn't ship. So anyway, more to come on the saga of the bikes. Also, in one of my very first April VEDA videos that was really popular, I put up a hummingbird feeder and no hummingbirds came. And lately the hummingbirds have been going nuts. I think it's because they're getting ready to leave and go to Mexico where they winter. So I'm going to try maybe this weekend, if I have a chance, to go and get some footage of the hummingbirds just to prove that they actually did show up. And I think people will really enjoy watching them in their antics. That's why I put up a feeder, is because they're kind of funny. So anyway, please be sure to subscribe if you want to follow my the antics of me trying to get an electric bike and ride it to work. And if you want to suggest a clock or find out what clock I ultimately settle on, I can definitely give you a tour of that. I'm kind of picky. I mean, a clock, I mean, right now we really notice that the clock is gone because we keep looking up where the clock was and seeing just blank wall. So yeah, and if you just want to hear what me answer VEDA questions, that'd be another good reason to follow. So anyway, like, subscribe, and please comment, and I'll see you tomorrow.